All right, before we get into this, just a real quick disclaimer. This is my opinion before the regular season starts. So we have just finished up preseason, and we are I think 10 days, 11 days, something like that from the start of the season. Obviously, we have this weekend with no NFL football. We have college, though. But this is going to be start of the season for my rankings for every NFL team. And what I'm going to be doing this time is, instead of going one by one and having it be a 40-minute video or whatever some of those videos were in the past, I'm going to make it a tier list. You're going to see all the teams right away. If you want to click it, see where your team is, hopefully you comment something if you disagree with it. And you can click off here. I'm going to try to keep this shorter. But with that being said, again, this is my opinion, switching things up again this year just to save me time and to make the videos shorter for YouTube. So with that being said, hit that intro and let's get into this. All right. Oh, I got to scroll down here. So we are here. We are going to do the rankings here. As I said in the intro, this is every team. If you want to see where your team is placed, in my personal opinion, there you go. Have fun. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to know why your team is ranked there, go ahead and stick around. What I'm going to do is, because in my opinion, the second half, really from 11 to 32, was a lot harder to rank than 10 to 1. So I'm going to start at the top. We'll just get these teams out of the way, and then we'll dive deep into why I have some teams where there is always potential where mid-recording I could be like, okay, I want to switch this to this. So if you are not sticking around, maybe your team gets moved up. Maybe your team gets moved down. I don't know. It's happened before in rankings videos. I try not to do it. I try to set this in stone, but there's potential where I could talk myself into putting, let's say, the Saints up above the Chargers or something like that. I don't think so, because, I mean, honestly, you could probably, do this. You could probably do that. But we've seen time and time again with the Chargers, and I am done hyping up the Chargers. So, again, we'll talk about that row later on. We'll talk about the top row here. Not much to say. I mean, it's the Chiefs first and foremost. Number one. By the way, left to right. So 1, 2, 3. Okay? I forgot to preface that before. Should have said that 30 seconds ago, 45 seconds ago. So, whoops. If you're wondering, oh, is this one? No. This is one. Left to right. So, Chiefs number one, clear number one, easy number one. It's just, they just won the Super Bowl. They shipped off Tyreek Hill, said, screw that guy. And Mahomes and Kelsey said, we're going to do this all by ourselves. And they went and won another ring. So, yeah, plain and simple. Eagles, they've lost, was it their offensive coordinator, I believe it was. They've lost some pieces on defense. Why are they number 2? Plain and simple, that offense is still that offense. Okay? You still have Jalen Hurts, who, in my personal opinion, I've stated this time and time again, despite the fumble in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts looked like the better QB, looked like the best player on the field in the Super Bowl. So I think it's so easy to just rank them high. I personally am okay if you have them top 4. I don't think they should be underneath the Bills, the Ravens, the Cowboys, and I know some people are going to really argue up the Cowboys, especially Cowboys fans. We've seen time and time again that the Cowboys always fall short and always fail. So I don't understand why right now, until they're proven that they're better than the Eagles this year, why are you putting them above the Eagles? Why are you putting the Cowboys above the Eagles? They're not worse than the Lions. They're not worse than the Jags. They're not worse than the Jets. The Jets, by the way, are super overhyped. We'll get into that here in a minute. So if you have them top 4, if you have number 4 on this list, I think it's clear and simple that the best 4 teams are the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Niners, and the Bengals. I just think that in recent years, they proved it. Past 2-3 years, all 4 teams have proved that they are clearly above the rest. Now, you have the Bills who try to sneak their way past people, try to sneak their way into the playoffs and saying, oh, yeah, we're that guy. And then they fall apart because they're not that guy, okay? They're not. So I can't put the Bills any higher than 5. But Bengals, I am putting them below the Niners at number 4 because the Niners here, to wrap up the first tier here, are very good. Nothing's really changed. There's still an amazing defense. They still have a ton of weapons on offense. Yes, they got rid of Trey Lance, but Trey Lance barely played last year. You had Brock Purdy, who led them to the NFC Championship game. And if he didn't get hurt, they'd probably go to the Super Bowl. Let's be real. They probably end up in the Super Bowl if Brock Purdy stays healthy. Do they win it? Probably not. I don't think so. Did they beat the Chiefs last year with Brock? I don't remember. But I think that Brock Purdy kind of is that last piece, that not the glue that holds everything together, but he's that last piece needed. You don't need a QB that needs to throw 700 yards every single game because you have a good backfield. You have CMC, who is a top 5 running back in the NFL when healthy. So I just think that, they're good, but, I want to see the Niners contend, and, if they can beat the Eagles, which, again, we're looking at playoffs, so we're looking at, like, end-of-the-year rankings for everything. But if they can, show that, hey, like, they can contend, they can beat the Eagles, I think that's worth putting them above. Right now, I don't know. Again, we're going off last year. We're going off of draft picks. We're going off of off-season acquisitions. We're going off of preseason. I think the Eagles are really good. Obviously, no team shows their hand in the preseason. No one does. Because you're just trying to figure out these backups. Are they going to, end up starting for us? Or are they going to be backups and whatnot? Are they going to make 53-man roster, practice squad? Or are we just cutting them and they're, never going to see the NFL again? Don't know. So that's why I don't take a ton of stock into the preseason. So, yeah, that's the top 3, 4 to 10. Again, I'm just going to kind of run through this a little bit faster because I don't want this to be a 70-minute video, an hour and 10 minutes. So Bengals, I think they're always going to be hovering around that top spot or that top tier. If I was doing 1 through 4, I would have on there, but I just like the 1, 2, 3. I just think that looks plain and simple, really good. And then 4 through 10, for the next tier teams. Again, the Bengals you could argue up here, but they're top of 4 or top of 4 through 10 because they are number 4 because they're right there on that tier with the other 3 teams. I believe that. I think they proved that when they made the Super Bowl. I think that it's just they're that good, but again, not top 3 because I just want a top 3 teams overall. I don't want to go 1 through 6 for the first tier list because that looks weird to me. That's like an OCD thing. That looks really weird to me. What I should have done is I should have split up 11, probably like 11 to 15 and 16 to 20 or whatever. Whatever. This one here is, this kind of a mid-tier teams. Anyway, Buffalo Bills. I think they should win their division. I think that they're, going to be a decent team in the regular season. It's just I don't know what they can do in the postseason because we've seen that they fall apart in the postseason. Even 13 seconds is too much. A coin flip, is PTSD for them. So I'm going to keep the Bills at 5 because right now I think they are better than the Ravens. They're better than the Cowboys. But I don't know how to feel about them when it comes to postseason because I don't feel like they're going to be any better than what they are. A lot of people, especially recently, have compared them to the Packers, to the AFC, the Packers. So I can see that. I can kind of agree with that. But, it's at the same time, you have I think they had recently have had better defense than Rodgers has in the past. But that's not the point. The point is they're at number 5. They're not – I don't want to say they're not close to breaking to the top tier, but – number 5 for me is like a low number 5 compared to 1 to 4. Like there's a little gap there. So number 6, Ravens. Why are they number 6? I think they have potential to be a number 3, not number 3, a top 3 team. I think there's potential for that. They're number 6 because of injuries, because if they can't stay healthy, they fall apart. And yes, last year they made the wild card, yes. And then they came out and said, well, if we had Lamar and if we had this and this and this, if. No ifs in football. You got to deal with what you have. You're dealt the hand. You got to play that hand. You got to use that hand to your best ability. So, injuries suck, yes, but their full potential, can be seen if Lamar stays healthy. If he doesn't stay healthy, well, then it's like, okay, now you're going to start thinking, was that contract really worth it if Lamar's going to keep getting injured year after year after year? If he stays healthy, then it's like, yeah, like we paid the man, and this man's going to deliver a Super Bowl to us because he's just that good. You got him a wide receiver in OBJ, the clear number 1 on that team. You have Mark Andrews at tight end. So again, I think there's potential that they can easily crack the top 3. I mean, technically, I guess I could put them above the Bills, but the Bills just are a more complete team, a more a team that you see get less injured overall, like Diggs, Allen, Diggs, and whatnot. I'm not going to say they're, never injured because they have been injured in the past, but less serious injuries than, Lamar was out for, I think, half the season last year, I think it was. So that's why they're number 6. They can bypass the Bengals and the Bills if they have a really good season. So next, Cowboys, I don't need to talk too much about them. They're a team that is going to dominate in the regular season because the NFC is crap. I was going to say something else, but it's crap. It's terrible, no good. NFC just sucks. They should be able to just bypass everyone in the NFC, probably end up losing the NFC title again. NFC East title, the East Division title. And then, get the 5th seed, beat the 4th seed, whoever that is from probably the South. Probably the South again. It might be the Bucs again. Might be the Saints. Might be the Falcons. Probably not going to be the Panthers, if we're being honest. And then they'll end up losing to the Niners or the Eagles or whoever they face in the divisional round. So, Lions are next at number 8 because they are taking a big step up. Great drafts recently. Jared Goff is not the greatest QB ever, but you can. I was going to say you can argue him top 10, maybe not top 10, but I think you can argue him top 15 quarterback in the league. But an average tier QB with great defense, offensive weapons around him. I think that it's just possible that they could win the NFC North, and they could maybe, depending on their opponent, maybe make it to the divisional round. I don't have them win the Super Bowl or anything, but I think that they can win a playoff game for the first time since, the 90s or whatever, something like that. It's been like almost 30 years or something. 30 something. Yeah, I think it's like 30 years. I think it's exactly like 30 years or something like that. So yeah, I think that's possible. Jags, same thing. I think they can, win their division with ease, make it past the Chargers again, or the Dolphins, or some, the Steelers, some mid-tier team that, I guess they'd probably be playing the 5th seed. So I guess it'd probably be like the Dolphins or the Jets. Or again, maybe the Chargers if they get it. We'll see. But I think that there's possible they could make it to the division round again. Calvin Ridley coming back from this dumb suspension of gambling, which I get it. I understand that. But when, you have people that do far worse and don't suspended a full year, you kind of look at gambling as a thing worse than, say, murder. So I don't, that aspect, I don't agree with it. I don't know anyone that would agree with that. It's just, again, I get it. It's not good to gamble, but when, again, you can abuse someone and only get like 6-game suspension, like really? Like NFL's got to look at those, the amount of time for suspensions for depending on different stuff. So I'm not saying, a year, like I'm good with, whatever. I get it. A year, fine. Then have other people suspended 2 years, 3 years. Okay, we're done. We're done. We're done. We're done. We're gonna move on to the Jets. But again, ceiling probably divisional again. Maybe AFC Championship game, but I don't want to put them there because I feel like it's going to be either like the Ravens or the Bills or the Bengals taking on the Chiefs again in the AFC Championship game. But there's a chance, small chance, that possibly they can make it to the AFC Championship game. The Jets. I'm so tired of talking about this team. I am so tired of all the offseason rumors and hype for this team. Get me to the freaking regular season so I can see this team fail. Okay? Okay? I am beyond ready with receipts and whatnot. There's so much. I could make an hour-long video of the amount of hype the Jets have gotten. If they fail even to make the playoffs, which, by the way, please fail to make the playoffs because that'll help my Packers. As long as Rodgers plays 65% or more of the snaps. So Rodgers doesn't get injured and the Jets suck. There we go. Perfect scenario for my Packers. Anyway, if they make it or don't make it to the playoffs, that is a total bust of a season for the Jets. One of the worst things possible is to not make the playoffs. I think there's possibility that they can make the wild card because you're going to be fighting with some teams like the Ravens, like the Dolphins, the Chargers, the Steelers, some mid-tier teams. So I think they can make the wild card. I think that's it. You're going to run into a buzzsaw in the Chiefs or the Bengals. Or, again, probably maybe a third time with the Bills. You're going to run into a buzzsaw in the wild card, especially if you get like a 6 seed or a 7 seed. So I don't have them win the division. If you count Tua being healthy, I think the Dolphins could finish second or they could win the division. I think it's really hard for the Jets to win this division when you have Josh Allen and if Tua stays healthy, you have 2 top-tier QBs. Aaron Rodgers, who again is like 7,000 years old, he can still sling it, but that O-line isn't looking that good, Mr. Rodgers. They got you Dalvin Cook, an aging Dalvin Cook. They got you some defensive pieces, but you don't have an O-line. What happens when you get in the playoffs? You're going to need an O-line. So that's the one weakness. The Jets have gone out and spent money everywhere else except for O-line for them. I don't trust that O-line in the slightest. Not at all. So, again, wild card for them. Dolphins, same thing, wild card. I think that's possible. Tua stays healthy. They could make it to the AFC Championship game. Possible. I think they could make it to the Super Bowl depending on who they face in the AFC Championship game. But they're at 11 because we don't know what Tua's status is going to be. We don't know if he's going to be good. We don't know if he's going to, get hurt midway through the season. We don't know. I can't. I see so much hype for the Dolphins, and I understand that more because Tua proved last year that he can be a great QB. But if he's not healthy, the Dolphins suck. Okay? So maybe they can make it to the wild card because Tua leads them to enough wins before he gets hurt. And maybe they, get bounced by the Bills again or something. But I can't put them top 10 because I don't know how they're going to look. I don't. So next we're going to move on to Seattle. I know Seattle, some people are going to think that's high. Oh, they're so high. They're number 12 on the list. They made the wild card last year when everyone said they were going to win like 5 games. Myself included. I had them be in a top 5 draft pick last year. They proved everyone wrong. Geno Smith led that team to the wild card game. The problem is they ran into the San Francisco 49ers. That's the problem. They ran into a buzzsaw right in the wild card. But I think they can easily make it back to the wild card. Who says they can't? They can't win their division, but they could get the 6th seed. They could get the 7th seed. Again, I think the Cowboys pretty much locked up the 5th. Cowboys, Eagles locked up the 5th seed. One of them does that. One of them wins the division. So I think 6 or 7 seed for the Seahawks, I think could happen. Giants, same thing. I think they could make it to the division round if you go up against the Minnesota Vikings like you did last year. And Minnesota Vikings fans are going to be crying, and we're going to drink those tears while the Giants go on to the division round to get smacked around again by the Eagles or the Cowboys. But I think that's possible that they could easily just make it to the wild card minimum. I think those two teams could easily do it. Vikings. Vikings and Packers are in the same kind of boat here. Yes, you have Justin Jefferson. Yes, that defense is not that good. They're not that good, okay? They're not. And actually, real quick, I don't know why I didn't do that. I'm going to do that here real quick. I think the Packers have a good defense. I think Jordan Love proved that he can be a decent QB. I think, what is this? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I think 15 is okay. Maybe you want to move them down to 20. I'm fine with that. I don't think they're as bad as, say, the Raiders or the Colts or the Panthers or the Cardinals down there. But if you want to move them back a bit, I think I understand, some people they just want the Packers dynasty of having good QBs to be over. They just want the Packers to suck. I understand that. But Jordan Love was decent. And obviously, I don't know how much playing time. When I go into this, I don't go like, oh yeah, I'm literally write down how much time all these starters had for this. I want to say Kirk got a couple drives in there. I don't remember exactly how many drives he had because I don't remember how many drives Jordan Love had. I think he had like 7, 8. I don't know. But I think Kirk's a good QB, an average QB. I think that again, these two teams are not similar, but in the aspect of Vikings probably have a better defense, but the Packers on paper probably have a better Vikings have a better offense. I think I said that wrong. Packers will have a better defense. I think it's how we say it. So I think they're close around that. I think you could add the Patriots in there too. I think that they'll be a decent team. The problem is they're in the one of the hardest divisions in football in the AFC East. So don't be surprised if they finish 4th because Tua stays healthy. Rodgers plays good enough to make the AFC AFC wildcard, and then the Bills win the division. Don't be surprised if the Patriots go like 8-9 and miss out in the playoffs because there's many other AFC teams that had to sneak in, and there might be 3 AFC East teams in the playoffs this year, just like we had 3 NFC East teams last year. Chargers. I am so sick and tired of this team. So sick and tired of them. Every year, they're built up. I've hyped them up too in the past to be a good team. Every freaking time they fall apart, they did not deserve to be in that AFC wildcard game. They went up 27-0 and left the game. They went home at halftime. The Chargers just, God, they frustrate me so much. I've because I gotta watch them play my Jags or my second favorite team. Like I've seen this team at its highs. I've seen Justin Herbert look really good. I've seen this team at its absolute lows in that 27-0 lead at it wasn't halftime, but it was right before halftime. It was 27-7 heading into halftime. They're not a Super Bowl contending team. They're not. There's no chance that they can win their division either. Like, people say, oh, Chiefs are going to fall off the face of the earth. Look at what happened again. Tyreek Hill left, and they said, oh, yeah, we're just going to go win a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. Screw Tyreek Hill. The Chargers can't do that. And again, injuries. I understand that. But on paper, they're loaded. And when we see them in action, they suck. So, Steelers, I'm just going to go ahead and say they're going to go 9-8. Let's go ahead and skip them. Saints, I think, have a good defense. I just think that, their offense is one big question mark. We'll see how they look. I'm going to kind of go kind of fast because this video is already running on long enough. And I'm trying to keep this around 20 minutes if I can. Bears don't have a defense, but they have some offensive weapons, so I think they can sit 20. I think that's fine with them. I think 5 or 6 wins is good. I do not believe Adam Rank had the Bears winning 12 games this year. 12 games this year. I just want you to hear that twice. And you know what? A third time. 12 games. 12-5. A biased Bears fan has them winning the division with 12 wins. What are you smoking, man? What are you smoking? What defense? They're going to be in shootouts like the whole game or the whole year, not the whole game, the whole year. So I don't like the Bears just don't impress me. I don't understand any hype at all for them. I like Justin Fields. I've stated this numerous times. I like Justin Fields. I think he's a good fit for Chicago. Doesn't that really have that good of an O line? And obviously you got DJ Moore now, but that defense again, it's going to be a shootout. And if Justin Fields can't get down the field, and the opposing team's defense can stop him a couple times, the other team can put up maybe 7 points. Then the time 6 stopped, and they lost that game, and they lose another game, lose another game, lose another game. So I don't trust the Bears that much. Next tier, Broncos are a huge mystery. I think they should be better. You can't really get much worse than rock bottom, even though they weren't the official worst record team. They were rock bottom last year because you have teams like the Texans and the Cardinals and the Panthers who are bad and going to be bad, but everyone expected that. Like when you have Russell Wilson, you trade for Russell Wilson, and you have all this stuff, and you should look good, and you're supposed to have a good defense, and you're supposed to have some weapons for Russ. You're gonna hit rock bottom, and it's like, okay, yeah, like they're that's like one of the worst teams ever, even though they didn't have the worst official record. So we'll see. I think they'll bounce back, maybe get 6 or 7 wins. I don't think they do too much. I think Sean Payton kind of turned them around a bit. But it's year 1 of his system, so we'll see how they do. 2 years from now, I might have them going to the AFC Championship game. They might be a top 10 team in 2 years. But this year, I want to see them in action through 8 weeks and see what they look like through the first half of the season before I can go, yeah, I think the Broncos can be good again with Sean Payton. So right now they can. Washington, yeah. They'll be a mid-tier team. They're in one of the hardest divisions. Again, 3 teams that are obviously better than them. Then they're probably not going to make the playoffs. Texans are on that slight rise up here. Yeah, they're getting some players. They're getting some stuff. They're building their way towards the top 20 here, which maybe they could be a top 20 team next year. I don't know. Falcons are just a mediocre team. They've got some pieces, but it's like I just feel like the Saints, and I know the Bucks are lower because, and I'll explain that here in a minute, but I almost just want to do this and do that and just have them really close. I think that there's more weapons and more opportunity for the Falcons than the Bucks because we'll see how Baker Mayfield does. I am personally rooting for Baker Mayfield. I know he sucks. I know a lot of people hate him. They just think he's not a good QB at all. But I think that they could have a better shot at winning than the Falcons. But I think on paper that this is just a little more talent. Even though the Bucks have a good wide receiver core, okay, a good wide receiver core, but their defense has fallen off. Run game has fallen off. QB game has fallen off. Just everything is really tight ends. Everything's just kind of fallen off for the Bucks. So I think that there's hey, you got a good tight end here. You got Patterson, who can be literally anything. You got Desmond Ridder, who could be decent on offense. So putting them there here a little bit higher, 21, 22, 23, 24. They're at number 25. I should have just went 25, 24, whatever. Browns at 25 because I just want to see Watson play. That offense, obviously didn't look good last year. They didn't have too much time together last year because of off the field stuff, which we won't talk about in this video. But I think the Browns are just going to be a mediocre team. And you're in a hard division. You have 2 good teams that should make the playoffs in your division. So it's going to be real tough. Raiders, you could I feel like you could argue them lower. And maybe you can argue them in the tier above. I'm going to put them here at 26 because they have Adams. You got Josh Jacobs to re-sign. But it's Jimmy G. It's a defense that has Max Crosby, and that's it. So I don't trust the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to suck. They'll be the worst in the AFC West. They're not the worst team overall because they have talent on their team. But I feel like by the end of the year, they might be 30 or 29 in my end of the year tier ranking. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, Bucks, what they have going for them is their wide receiver core. If Baker's good, you can move them up a tier. If they win the division, I would move them up to about 20, 19, 18, somewhere in there. But I think, again, to me personally, despite the Falcons have more talent on paper, I think that Bucs have a little bit better shot of winning the division if Baker is an average QB. If he's throwing a bunch of picks, then give it to the Falcons or the Saints. If he's not throwing a bunch of picks, it's the Saints or the Bucs winning that division. So, Titans next. You could argue them higher. I really think you could. I just feel like they've lost so much, and it's really Derrick Henry's show. And that's really it. You have an okay defense. You don't have, a lot of experience QB-wise. I forget who their starting QB even is. I don't remember who they said is starting on number one, who's starting week one as the number one QB. Malik Willis is not, there's been a bunch of reports come out that he's not thrilled people and whatnot. So I don't think it's going to be him. And I forget who else they brought in. I don't even remember. I do not even remember who else they brought in. But, besides that, just average QB room. An okay wide receiver core. I think their O-line is decent. I think it's, you invested that in, for Derrick Henry. I think it's a decent O-line. But defense just kind of really holds them down too. I don't trust them a lot. I think they might be an okay team, maybe 6 wins, 7 wins, but they're not winning the division. I think the Jags are clearly the better team. They're the best team in that division, clearly. And so, I think the Titans are just the team where it's like, I don't know. Colts next, Anthony Richardson. I am personally rooting for him. I know a lot of people are like, why was he picked so high? What are the Colts doing? He's shown some flashes in preseason, but I think, when the regular season starts, I think hopefully we see more. The problem is they're not winning the division this year. They don't have a good, great team around him. So you can't just be like, Colts have a chance to win the division next year. They just, one piece away on defense or offense. No, especially with Jonathan Taylor seeking a trade. He's not been traded yet. Seeking a trade, though he doesn't want to be in Indy. It's just like, hey, the Colts just aren't that spectacular of a team. Panthers, they're just young. You have Adam Thielen there now, but they're just overall young. They're just not going to be that good of a team. Bryce Young can be good. No pun intended before, by the way. But Bryce Young could be a good QB, but I don't know how to feel about there's just really nothing there for the Panthers really at all. Rams here at 31. I know some people are gonna go, why? Because they had a terrible Super Bowl hangover, and I don't know. I have this feeling that they're not recovering. Like they won't recover really at all. Now they still have a good defense, which they got rid of Jalen Ramsey. I guess, because you still have Aaron Donald, and some good pieces on there. But like is Matthew Stafford? I'm trying to remember. I am trying to remember. Hang on, I'm gonna pull this up real quick while I talk. I'm trying to remember if Matthew Stafford's QB1. LA Rams. Oops, can't spell. Players. We'll look at this real quick. Is he confirmed to be playing? It looks like he will be starting, but again, he's, coming off a bad injury. We'll see how he does. I guess the more I think about it, I guess 30 is probably a little too harsh. Or sorry, 31s. I guess you could move him up here to like here. I guess you could do that. You can move him up a little bit higher. The more and more and more I think about it, but I don't think they're going to be that good of a team. I just don't. I really don't. They just feel like a team that they won a Super Bowl, they went all in, and now it's like, okay, we're good. And then the Cardinals, they're at 32. I think it's easy to say they're the worst team in the league by a wide margin. You have teams that have rookie QBs. It's like, okay, they are going to suck. But then you have the Cardinals, which I don't think Kyler Murray's coming back to like the middle of the season or something like that. I can't remember when he's supposed to be coming back. But you just don't have that good of a team around him. You have Hopkins, who's kind of just wasting away. He's just been wasting away like his career. Like he's stuck on the Texans. Now you're kind of just sitting on the the Cardinals here after we had started out, was it 9-0 that one year, and then just fell off the face of the earth. And a lot of teams just a lot of those players just are not that good on the team, and it's just they're clearly I would be surprised to know who has anyone lower than the Cardinals. I really would. If you do, let me know why you have a team lower than the Cardinals. Again, you can argue the Panthers because of a rookie QB, but that's kind of an out because it's a rookie QB. You expect them to be bad. Colts again too. So like if there's a team where you can point to more than, oh, it's a rookie QB. If you can point to something else besides that, it's a valid point. I will give you that there's a team worse than the Cardinals. I will think about it and possibly give it to you. But if you just go, oh, yeah, well, Bryce Young's a rookie QB and the Panthers suck, so they're just going to be a worse team. Yeah, because there's nothing really there. They're rebuilding for a reason. The Cardinals had a good team and have now fallen off the face of the earth. So we are 34 and a half minutes into this. So I'm going to wrap this up here right now. So let me know your rankings if you want to do top 10, top 5. If you want to tell me your worst team, do whatever kind of rankings you want to do. Go ahead and put them in. This video is kind of like the start of the season for me. This is when we start focusing on week 1 and we get stuff ready and this and that and this and that. So I know it's a longer video. Thank you for stopping by. Like, subscribe, and share. And I'm out of here. Peace.